Ah, there we go. That's not quite right. Okay. Hi, I am Michael Donahue, and this is my first video blog, or vlog. And the first thing I want to talk about is vlogging, which I think is hysterical for a person from my generation. Vlogging sounds like flogging. When I was a youngster and a teenager, people would say things like, what is Charlie McDonald doing in his room all day? He's vlogging. Oh my God, don't tell me that. So, I am doing a video blog because I have been unhappy with Facebook and emails. And my neighbors are watching me. Huh, weird. Anyway, it's really hard to communicate your emotions, what you're feeling in text. It doesn't help that most people on planet Earth don't read books. I think there's like 2% of people who regularly read books. And the other 98% maybe buy the coffee table book or the Bridges of Madison County and read the first chapter and put it on their coffee table and pretend they read it or something. But, reading is wonderful. It's wonderful. It's a time machine. But, you have to be skilled at it. People who do it a lot get addicted to it, which is why they can't, help but read billboards as they ride by, because anytime, we see text, we have to look at it, or it will make us crazy if we don't know what it said. I've actually gone around the block once just to see what a stupid billboard said. So today seemed to be a good day to start my video blog, and actually, since Hank Green, who I admire greatly, was just recently ranting about Geico commercials, I was very amused because as I walked out of the house to come sit down here, had a plane, small, single-wing, single-engine plane flying overhead, pulling a banner for Geico, and I guess Geico is infiltrating the video blogosphere anyway. And also, in honor of Charlie McDonald, who I greatly admire, I'm drinking iced tea. This is a concession I only make in the spring when I'm working in the garden, and it's the only time I can tolerate the taste of iced tea. But it reminds me very much of my grandmother and the dinners and brunches and holiday meals we had at her place. She'd always make up iced tea, and it's a hell of a lot better for people than high fructose corn syrup, I think. For those of you who don't know, again, my name is Michael Donahue. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a film director. I'm recently a member of the Directors Guild of America, which I find incredibly funny and still bemuses me. And every time I go over there, I wonder if they're going to say, "Oh, wait, sir, there's been a terrible mistake," and they throw me out the door on my ear. But so far, that has not happened. And I am very grateful to that organization for even considering me as a member. On another blog, I think I will tell you people how that happened. Because it was unplanned on my part, and it's something I did not even think would ever really happen. Recently, one of the people I communicate with on Facebook said I should write a book. As I said, there are only 2% of people that read books, so that seemed inefficient. What I thought I would do is tell a little story of stuff that has happened to me in my life, in my travels, the celebrities I've met, my experiences on sets in Hollywood, working post-production, production, directing, writing, behind-the-scenes stuff. But today I'm going to tell you the story of how I met the Queen of England. And it's a true story, which means nobody will probably believe it, or they'll think I'm embellishing it. But in 1995, the World Science Fiction Convention was in Glasgow, Scotland. And I was pretty poor. I flew into London, and I toured there for about a week before I headed up to Scotland. Well, here comes Geico. No, that's the BBC news copter. And I'll wait for them to go by, and then I'll cut this part out. The neighbors shout a lot. Anyway, I told all my friends that I was going over to England to have tea with the Queen of England, which is, of course, ridiculous. And everybody laughed and smiled, and it was a harmless little joke. Well, I think it must have been the third day I was there, and I was suffering from jet lag. And I was staying at the Cosmo House Hotel in Bloomsbury Court, a house that's actually a block of buildings. And the rooms in this house used to be 12 by 12. And they had cut them in half. So they were 6 feet by 12 feet, and they put 2 3-foot beds along the long wall. So you had a little 3-foot walkway, and then beds, and a little sink. But it was very inexpensive, and the window looked down into Bloomsbury Court, which is very close to the British Museum, and I loved it. But I woke up very early. I mean, really, oh my God, early, and I could not sleep, which is unusual for me, but I could not sleep. So I said, what can I do, because I'm awake early this Sunday? And it turned out that according to the guidebook, the only thing that opened early on a Sunday was the Tower of London. So I went over to see the Tower of London. And I got there early and found a McDonald's and waited for them to open, and I had an Egg McMuffin. I went in, got the guidebook, kind of walked around, went through the entire Tower Museum, which was amazing, and I came out into the courtyard. I was going to go over and see the chapel. The chapel is in the corner of the Tower of London, which is actually a palace. It's, you know, it has, you know, guardhouses and a war museum and really cool medieval, you know, exhibits of everything you could imagine. And they have a chair made out of deer antlers there, which is a throne. I don't know the exact circumstance. I don't think it was actually ever used by a ruler, but it's a really cool piece of art. I went over to see the chapel. They had some little wooden barricades set up that weren't really even blocking anybody, but they were there. And they were like the little sawhorses that your dad uses, you know, when he's working on stuff for the house. And there was maybe 10 or 15 people hanging out there. And I was dressed. I was wearing my Constellation t-shirt from the World Science Fiction Convention. I think it was in 1983 in Baltimore. And it was a bright orange shirt. It had a graphic on the front of it of an Apollo astronaut getting off the stair of the lunar lander and being attacked by giant crabs. We had a crab feast in Baltimore at the Constellation Convention. So it was all very cute. And I had very long hair and goofy glasses. And I was wearing shorts, and I had a backpack, and I was wearing tennis shoes and white socks. And I looked like an idiot, and I didn't care because who was there to see it? You know, I just was just going around and doing my thing and having a good time. One of the beefeaters is there, and I say, you know, can I go see the chapel? And he says, oh, I'm sorry, the chapel's closed. You'll have to wait. And I said, oh. And he says, yes, the Queen's in chapel. I said, what? And they said, the Queen is in chapel. You know, they're having a celebratory mass. You know, it's the 50th anniversary of VJ Day, Victory in Japan Day from World War II. And, you know, but the Queen will be out in a minute. You could hear the choir singing, and I could hear the choir singing through the stained glass windows. And then you can go in and see the chapel. So I thought, well, this is worth the price of a few minutes of my time. So I stood there with these other people. It was all very casual. And sure enough, about 7 or 8 minutes later, the doors opened and some people came out, and then the Queen of England came out. And she was almost as close to me as I am to this video camera, maybe 2 or 3 feet further away. And she looked right at me, and she gave me a big smile, and she waved right at me. And I smiled, and I kind of waved back, and I thought to myself, I look like a complete fool, because I was wearing a Constellation t-shirt and long hair and just looked like a complete idiot. That is how I met the Queen of England. But the very next thing I thought was, you know, she's not reputed to smile. Although she doesn't smile very much, let's just say. Well, she has a beautiful smile. And she was very happy that day. And damn you, Geico! Damn you! Until you're a filmmaker, you don't realize how noisy the airspace is over the cities we live in. It's phenomenally loud, just crazy. We just tune it all out, but it's phenomenally loud in our cities. So I thought, well, you know, she doesn't, you know, she has this beautiful smile. She's very nice. I didn't do anything stupid like try and talk to people or cross the barricade. And I think Prince Philip was there, and the Archbishop of Canterbury was there, and a lot of other, you know, distinguished people, I'm sure, who I would have been very impressed by if I'd known who they were. But they went over, and there's the hanging tree, which is a very old tree. I think it's an oak tree. I think it's an oak tree. It might be a walnut tree. I think it's an oak tree. They had a guest registry, giant leather-bound, you know, English sort of a thing with probably vellum pages. And, you know, the Queen signed it, and the Prince signed it, and the Archbishop of Canterbury signed it, and it was all, you know, to record every moment of her life and where she'd been at every instant. And, yeah, she took it with very good humor, and they all got into their Bentleys and Rolls Royces or whatever they were driving and zoomed out the private gate. And then they took down the barricades, and I went in and I saw the chapel, which is enough reason to go there itself. It's really beautiful. The whole story, why the Queen was in such a good mood, is apparently the then Prime Minister of Great Britain had come out a few days before the 50th anniversary of VJ Day. And this is hearsay, so I may be getting it wrong, but he was reputed to have said that he was very sorry about Hiroshima. And few days later, apparently the Queen came out and said that she wasn't sorry at all about Hiroshima. Japan, in World War II was, one of the enemies of Great Britain. And the Queen was living in Buckingham Palace, and they were dropping bombs on her city, and she was a very strong woman who lived through all that. And it's amazing she's still here, really just amazing. And the fact that I ever was in her presence is awesome, because I'm not much for royalty, but I read fantasy novels, so that the sort of psyche, I have that in my brain, in the back of my brain, so it's really cool. I think I went to see Samuel Johnson's house that day. I think I saw Charing Cross Road. Is it 84 Charing Cross Road, where the bookstore used to be? I went back to Bloomsbury Court, to the Cosmo House Hotel, and there was a family of people that ran it. They had this very large, very dark, very comfortable sort of common room with sofas and a little TV set and a coin-operated telephone. And there was this old guy behind the counter, and he must have been my age now. But he was very taciturn, and I'm sure he'd heard many things from many tourists that probably weren't the best things the tourists could have said. But I really wanted to talk about the fact that I had seen the Queen of England in person. And I tried to start a conversation with him, and he didn't want to hear it. He just did not want to hear that I had anything. I said, I had an amazing day. I met the Queen of England. I was in her presence. And he just kind of stopped and looked at me. And it was like, I know he was thinking, are you going to make fun of the Queen of England? And I told him the story of what happened. And he sat there. And he got this very dour look on his face. And he said, I've lived every day of my life in the city of London, and I've never seen the Queen. And I didn't quite know what to say. It suddenly seemed that it was my fault that he'd never seen the Queen. And so I said to him, encouragingly, I think she makes public appearances, and you could probably, look in the newspaper and ask about a bit and find out when she's going to be at a ceremony or a public appearance, and you could probably go and see her. And he just had this look on his face like that could never happen. That could not exist in his realm of possibility. Life. That's something I still think about, is the fact that I have traveled some really cool places and seen or met or been in the presence of some pretty amazing people. And I, am by no means rich. I live in an affluent society where I'm lucky enough that they have cheap internet and Wi-Fi and computers. And I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be part of the YouTube experience. And it's really fun. And if you have any comments, please list them below. And I will try and post at least one video a week, maybe two, to tell you stories about Hollywood and the films of Michael Donahue and the people I know and the things I do and the things that I think about. And I hope this works out to help me stay in better touch with my family and friends too. So that's it. And welcome to Hey Mike, my video blog channel on YouTube.